Okay, now we're recording. So I'm going over objections. I feel like the biggest part of objections is getting to them before somebody can give you an objection. I think that is like the biggest thing, because the more like, but this, but that, the more you feel like you have to be like defending yourself, and then that can kind of dig you into a hole. So I put together some pretty important things that I felt like that I do in my business that is helpful to combat those objections before I even get them. So, like knowing what's coming and being able to provide the information that everybody needs before they can say, like, oh, well, I can't afford this, or I can't do that, or I don't have time, or whatever the excuse is. So, I did make a PowerPoint that I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And then I can share this with Joy too. So Joy can, actually, I think I already sent it to her. So she can share it with you guys. So you have the PowerPoint too, but jot down any notes that you guys feel are important as we're going through. Because there are some things where you guys can actually take action tonight. So let me share my screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Awesome. Okay, so minimizing objections, basically making them go away before they can even start. So confidence matters. So the biggest thing that I feel like we keep talking about is like you have to be confident, right? If you are messaging somebody and trying to invite them to the coaching journey or to even like just a boot camp itself, and you come across as being a little bit hesitant, they're going to read that and they're going to feel that, and they're not going to feel like this is something that they need to be doing or that they need to have in their life. So this quote that I have up here is, if you're not confident in what you have to offer, your energy will attract hesitations, right? People are going to make those excuses because you don't sound confident. So everything we do, our posts, our stories, our communications, we need to exude confidence. We need to like radiate confidence. Even if we're not feeling it, you have to fake it till you make it. So one of the things that I feel like I always was afraid of in the beginning when I first started coaching was I felt like I was annoying people. Like I was afraid to message people and invite them to my challenge groups and my boot camps because I felt like I was like being annoying and like pesky and like, like, hey, want to join my boot camp? But like, but it's okay if you don't want to. Like, I totally understand, like kind of not having that full confidence in myself really comes across. So the one thing to know is like, you're not annoying anybody. I don't know how many times I have messaged people where, first of all, I get so many no's. But you have to have confidence when you get that no, like, okay, girl, not a problem. Like, I totally get that. Like, when's a better time for me to check back in with you for the next boot camp, right? Like, that's confidence. Instead of saying like, oh, well, why not? Or like, trying to come at them like, in that different way. So just keep in mind, like, you're not annoying anybody. There are so many people when I message them, they're like, oh my gosh, yes, I've been watching your stories. I have seen that you run these boot camps. I've always wondered what they are, or like, yes, please send me information. Like, I've been trying to lose weight. And then as you get into those conversations, you find out that, they've been wanting to do something about their health or their fitness or their weight for a long time. But, they didn't know what to do or where to start. So you just have to think like you are helping people. And, so you're not annoying anybody. I think that it's important too to know, like, you have this opportunity, this amazing opportunity to share what we know and what we do with others. And that is the workouts, the nutrition, the finding that self-confidence and gaining that self-confidence. Like, I feel like it's our obligation to share that with everybody, right? Like, we've all gotten results from some program or another. And that's why we're here, because we love what we do. We love the workouts. We love the nutrition. We believe in it because we've gotten the results from it. And now it's like your obligation to share that with others. Like, you have to share that with others. How amazing it feels for me when I'm losing my baby weight and like, on my postpartum journey, I have to share that with everybody because I want all new moms to feel as good as I feel. Like, there's no better feeling than like seeing the baby weight just fly off and getting back to my new old body, right? Like I feel like I have to share that because I want everybody to feel like that. And you guys all want, your followers to feel that way too. So make sure when you're communicating with everybody, you are coming across with confidence, right? Like don't hesitate in what you're saying or they're going to be hesitant right back. And then that's just going to be another no. Okay. So we have to prove that it's worth it. And that can come in so many different ways, right? If we're trying to invite to our boot camps, we have to show to everybody that it's worth it to join our boot camp, right? Instead of just saying, oh, it's $160 for a challenge pack. Okay, well, who's going to spend $160 if they don't see that it's worth it? They have to see the value in it before they spend that money. And they're not going to spend that money unless they feel you're going to provide that value. And I can say probably 10 times out of 10, it's never going to be a person who you've never interacted with before, right? If they just started following you, they're not going to sign up for your boot camp tomorrow, right? They need to see the value, and the way that you share that value is in your stories and on your feed. And you talk about your boot camps, you talk about your coaching mentorships, you talk about the people on your team. One of the best ways to do that is with testimonials in your stories. So screenshotting things that people say in our boot camps or messages that you get from your clients and from even from your other coaches too. When you're checking in with them and when you're messaging them and saying, hey girl, how was your week? I just wanted to see what can I help you with? And when they message you back with something positive and it makes you feel good, share that in your stories. Block out their name, block out their picture. Like nobody needs to know who said it. But just the fact of sharing that to show other people that you're giving value to other people, right? Like you're not just saying you're doing these things, you're showing that you're doing these things and people are getting value from that. I feel like one of the big things too is you can screenshot in our actual boot camps, right? When people do the Monday check-ins in our boot camps and they say how much weight they've lost or they say how great they feel or they say that they were off plan for the weekend and now they feel terrible and they know that nutrition is going to get them back on track and it's going to make them feeling good again, screenshot that, share that in your stories. And guess what? It doesn't even have to be your own challenger. It can literally be anybody in the boot camp, right? Like block out their name, block out their picture, but share something. Okay. So it doesn't have to be like your own challenger. If somebody else had amazing success in the group, like shout them out. That's huge. That's a huge accomplishment. And we want to share that. So everybody else can see that this is working, right? Our boot camp is getting people results. You can give value with nutrition, and I feel like that is a huge one. And I feel like Joy does an amazing job with giving value with nutrition in her stories, because I feel like every single day if you go to her stories, there's always something with nutrition, right? There's a recipe, there's like a tasty treat that she makes, or like the protein balls that she makes to have as a snack. So always be sharing something with nutrition. Give a recipe for free. A lot of times I'll share like what I had for dinner. And like, for example, that on the slide is chicken tortilla soup. And I had so many messages from people saying, can you send me that recipe? And so instead of sending them the recipe, I put it in my stories. I said, yep, keep checking back in my stories and I'll be sharing the recipe soon. So they need to keep coming back to my stories to see where that recipe is so that they can screenshot it. And I actually did a series of 3 stories for that one, and it said like recipe coming at you, screenshot the next slide, and then it was my recipes, right? So they know that it's coming up and they can screenshot that recipe. I feel like I used to have the feeling like I don't want to give free information because then what's the point of joining my boot camp? But you have to build that trust with people and show them what value you're going to be providing in the boot camp. And so you have to give some things away for free to reel them in so that they know like, okay, well, you'll not only get recipes in my boot camp, but you're going to get whole meal plans in my boot camp. So like, here's like a small recipe to try some of them out. And if you really like it, like jump into the boot camp. I've got hundreds of more to share with you. So giving that little bit of value in your stories is really helpful. And even in a post, if it's like a good one, Sharing before and after photos, obviously we all know that, right? We're getting results with these programs with following the nutrition plan. So make sure that you're sharing those. It definitely needs to be at least one transformation photo in a 9-grid square on your Instagram page. That way people are constantly seeing your transformations. And try to change them up, right? You don't need to do full body every single time, right? You can focus on the stomach area, the arm area if you're gaining muscle, or the face area. I've done a lot of face ones because I feel like my face has really like elongated and like thinned out. So I do some face side by side ones. But the next one says like, it doesn't have to be just weight loss, right? Transformations of all sorts. So think about how your mindset has changed with starting your journey. We do a lot of personal development as a coach, so we need to share that with everybody. That's just another piece of value that we're giving to the people who are watching, so they know that that's the value we're going to be giving in our boot camps. Showing the value of a group. So just talking in your stories about what our boot camp is doing. So holding your phone up while you're scrolling on your computer and like recording the screen to show or do screen record on your phone of like everybody who's posting in there, right? Like in the beginning of a group, if it's like a welcome post and it's like post a GIF or a GIF, whatever it's called, of, if you're excited for the group to start and everybody's posting them, like show that in your stories, because that shows everybody how much fun we're having in that boot camp. And then do some challenger shout outs every now and again. They don't need to be like every day, but definitely shout those people out. So if you are doing a testimonial or they shared their before and after photos with you, ask them for permission if you can share that and shout them out in your stories. Show their progress, show what they're doing. They, number one, would love to have their stuff shared. They're going to feel so special that you chose them. And then everybody else gets to see that as well, all that value that you're providing. Educate your audience. So a lot of times I have found a lot of objections with like either Shakeology, or they're curious about like what Energize is, because I call it my liquid gold. So you need to educate people on what it is that you like, the products that you're using. If you're using beach bars and stuff, like you have to show that in your stories. Talk about what it does for you. Do not ever use the names Shakeology and Energize and Recover and Beach Bars. Just it's your superfood shake or your liquid gold or your recovery drink after your workout, and talk about what it does for you. In your stories, a really good one to do with Energize is like show how tired you are in the morning, and then a picture with your Energize, or you're talking with your Energize, and then like another story after that showing how energized you are and you're like ready to work out and you're feeling great and you're awake now. Sharing that with your audience and give them that almost like that FOMO, like they want to try that out. And then by the time you go to talk to them about everything they get in their challenge pack, they're already going to know what the shakes are. They're already going to know what the Energize is because they see it every day and you can reference it. Every time I talk to somebody about a challenge pack and I'm referring to the Performance Line challenge pack, I say, that liquid gold that you see me drinking in my stories every morning. And they know right away, like they know what it is. They know what it does for me. They know how it helps me. So it's one less thing that you have to hear as an objection. Like, oh, well, I don't do a pre-workout. Like, I'm not somebody who drinks pre-workout. Okay. Well, I don't ever call it a pre-workout. So they don't know that, but they know that Energize makes me awake and fun and happy and starts my day right. So they're going to want to try that too. Addressing hesitations. Okay, so we all kind of know some of the typical hesitations that we get when we invite people. And if you don't know all the hesitations yet, that's just because you haven't invited enough. So if you're a newer coach, you're going to start to learn those common hesitations that you hear all the time. And the best way to get that before somebody can say that is to address them publicly. And so what I mean by that is sharing how others with similar fears or concerns are moving forward. So it could be yourself, it could be people in the boot camp. These are some good sentence starters to kind of think about. Like, I used to feel blank. Like, how did you feel before you started your journey, and how do you feel now? share some things that you've learned in the process. So, you've learned that daily routine is really helpful for you. Getting up in the morning is the best time for you to have your me time before the kids get up, before they go off to school, before your day starts with work. And sharing your fears, because the hesitations you had before you signed up are the same hesitations everybody else has, right? So I just threw an example up here that I had posted earlier in January, and I talked about like how I was really stuck in some of my bad habits. Like I was stopping at McDonald's after work or on the way to work. I was getting coffee every day in the morning on my way to work. I never had a meal plan, so I was making frozen pizza every night for my family. Like I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't ever work out. And the thing was, I didn't want to change. Like I was fine like that, but I also was unhappy, but I didn't want to make the change, which a lot of people are in that situation. And then I just talked about some of the emotions, right? Like if I was sad, then I would eat. If I was happy, then I would eat. If I was angry, I would eat. If I had a terrible day, I would eat. And people can relate to that. But I also talked about how like I didn't want the change because I was so lazy and I was tired and I didn't have time. So talking about those things and then how you overcame them, the fact that the boot camps are there for accountability, that you have a coach there to hold you accountable, messaging you every day, that you have these workouts at home. I didn't even have to drive to the gym to do that, right? I have had countless gym memberships that went wasted and I threw money down the drain because I never wanted to drive to the gym. So talk about those things publicly, because those are the same excuses that everybody else is making, right? They have a gym membership that they never use. They don't have time to work out. Okay, well, it's 30 minutes a day. You can wake up 30 minutes earlier. So talk about how you overcame those things. How is your morning routine? Like, what do you do in the morning to help you with that? And always end your post on a positive note. So if you're talking about something that you used to fear, or a hesitation you had, or a reservation you had before you started, you have to make sure that you turn that around. Because if you just say, I didn't want to do it, I was tired, but here I am. Like nobody knows how you got there. So you have to share that you have to paint that picture of like, this is where I was unhappy. I had this opportunity. This is what I have access to. And now here I am. And this is the only reason that I'm still here, holding myself accountable. Everybody else is there with me.
So I just wanted to say this whole slide that Ashley just talked about is pretty much what Carl Dackler, like his whole problem solution, that whole thing that he talks about. I don't know if you guys follow him on social media, but that was kind of his push a couple months ago, was when you are posting, always think about your problem before Beachbody. Like, and this is not just like in your posting, like one post here and there. This is like what we do constantly as coaches, like over and over and over. So in your stories every single day, in your posting every single day, you are telling people what your problem was, what your little bitty problem, like it doesn't have to be overall, but just every little problem that you had before Beachbody, the solution to it, what you did, right? What Beachbody offers, and now where you're at because of that. And so he talks about that progression and how to show that in your stories and in your posting. So that just reminded me of that. It just kind of helps you break it down, thinking about your problem before, what Beachbody offered as a solution, and then where you're at now because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys, there are so many people, if you are following the business activity tracker and you are adding people to your social media every single day and new people are following you, you have to keep sharing the same thing over and over and over again, because there are new people every single day looking at your feed. So even if you've talked about how I woke up every single day and asked my husband if I was getting too big, I have to keep saying that over and over again. I'm going to drill it into everybody's head, and they're going to know when they see me, they're going to be like, oh, that was that girl who asked her husband every morning if she was getting too big. Like they need to memorize your story. So you have to keep saying the same thing over and over and over again. Now, not every single post should say the same thing, but change it up. So even if you're like, oh, well, I talked about that last week, talk about it again. Today's a new day. It's a new week. right? You have new people on your page and they need to hear that same stuff because they're going to have the same hesitations that somebody else did who saw your post 2 weeks ago. So never feel like you're repeating yourself too much. People need to hear your story. Responding to hesitations. Okay, so when you get the hesitations, right? If you've done all these things and you still have that, well, I don't have time, or whatever the case is, there's 3 main things I want to talk about. So everyone's initial reaction is to not change anything, right? They're like, oh, I'm so unhappy, but they don't want to change anything. And I was in that boat too. I was too lazy to change anything. I didn't want to do the hard work because I knew it was going to be work. So everybody's initial reaction is to say no and to not want to do anything. So that's your job to keep asking, right? And I'm going to share towards the end like a statistic with some percentages about that specific one. So listen, hear where they are, relate, and connect to them. The biggest thing is relating to them. When they say something to you, you need to get on their level and say, I 100%, I hear you, I get that. I had a similar feeling or a similar experience, or I went through the same thing. I thought the same thing, and share a little bit about yours, right? Make that connection with them. If they know that you went through the same thing or something similar, they're going to be more likely to want to join your boot camp because they're going to know that you can help them because you went through the same thing. Even before I had my daughter, when people would make excuses like they didn't have time because they had kids or something, or, whatever the case was, even though I didn't have kids, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I don't really know what that's like because I don't have kids, right? You have to relate somehow. You can find some sort of connection, right? So if they said they didn't have time because of kids, I would say, oh, I totally get that, right? Like, I'm working on my master's, I'm getting an endorsement, I'm working full time, I'm coaching on the side, I coach the dance team, right? Like, if their excuse is that they're busy, make yourself sound busy too. If their excuse is that they don't have the space to do it, talk about how you move your living room furniture to the side every single day to make room for it, right? Like, you have to find a solution for what they're saying, but you need to relate to them so that they feel comfortable and know that you were in the same boat too. So if you can do it, they can do it. And always assume the sale, right? So that goes along with, having confidence in yourself and coming across with confidence. Always assume they're going to say yes. So when you're talking to them, what I mean by that is when I'm giving information to everybody, I say, so when you join my boot camp, you're going to get this, right? Not like if you join my boot camp, or you'll have access to this, right? Like, always make it like they're gonna do it. So I say, when you're in my boot camp, you're gonna get this, this, and this. And every Monday we do this. And you're gonna get access to, or you have access to all of these workouts. You have access to all of these meal plans. So not talking about like, if you sign up, it's no, you are signing up and this is what you're getting. So that's that confidence piece, right? If you say, oh, well, if you want to, or if you decide to, if the time's right for you, okay, well, that's giving them that out right there, right? Like, oh, well, the time's not right now. So always assume that they are signing up and have that confidence, and then they eventually will sign up. These are just a couple hesitations. I'm not going to read them fully because Joy has this and she'll share it with you guys, and I'll share it in my team page as well so you guys can look through them. These are just some, if somebody gives you this hesitation, this is something that you can say back to them. So for the first one, can I just do the workouts? So, when you're describing everything and you say it's 160, and a lot of people will say like, oh, I don't really want the shakes. Can I just do the workouts? So again, I start this whole thing with, I actually asked the same thing when I started my journey. So that's me relating to them, right? Like, oh, I said the same thing. And then I say like, well, it comes in your challenge pack, so you're going to get it. You might, most people try it for the month and then kind of reevaluate towards the end of the boot camp, and you can see how you're feeling after trying it. And if you don't want to reorder, that's totally fine. It is 100% your decision and up to you. But, you can at least try it for that first month since it comes in your challenge pack, right? So have that confidence. Don't give them another option. It just comes with it. And I talked about, I think in here, it was something that, like, I wouldn't be sharing this if it wasn't something that I truly believed in. If they say it's not in my budget right now, or Shakeology is too pricey because they know like the price to keep reordering, again, relate to them. So I gave them, if I get this one, like examples of, like I used to eat out all the time, get coffee every morning. We would order food for dinner because I didn't have a meal plan, right? So talking about where, I found that all my money was going to junk food and bad coffee, like not good for you. Um, so, talking about, rebudgeting. And now that I'm on a healthy meal plan, I can order my groceries or pick up my groceries. I know what I'm spending. And now this is built into my budget because I'm no longer spending that money on fast food and junk and cookies and whatever. I'm spending that money on a healthier thing. So it literally works out to be the same price for me. So just talking about that. Another hesitation, these ones are a little bit more, I think, geared towards coaching. So if you're talking about coaching and somebody says they don't have a social media following, obviously we don't all have huge social media followings right now, but we make it work, right? So just relating to them, again, I said, like, I never posted on social media before I became a coach. I would maybe share things about my honeymoon or my wedding, but I mostly just used it for scrolling. I didn't really ever post anything. But once I actually started doing it, ripped the Band-Aid off and started posting and sharing, it became easy and it became a habit. So it wasn't anything that was hard anymore for me. Another hesitation, if they say that they don't want to sell things, I really talk about how we're not selling things, right? Which we're not selling things. We are, if anything, we're selling a healthy lifestyle, right? We're helping people become healthy and teaching them the things that they need. Most times people think they're selling things like any other MLM where you buy makeup or you buy these other products and then you never hear from that person you bought them from again, right? Like, when they buy a challenge pack, they are in our boot camp. So we are with them every single day. So that's a huge selling point right there to help them. Like, we're not just selling a product and then we're going to dump you somewhere. Like, we're here to help. And so talking about it in a way that's not like, oh, we're just selling Shakeology or we're just selling challenge packs. Like, no, these are just the tools that I know that work because I've gotten results from them and all these other people have gotten results from them. And I just want to share that with everybody, right? And you just need access to those tools, which is a challenge pack. So I'm not selling things, I'm helping others. And then I'm not at my goal weight yet. I know I wasn't at my goal weight when I started coaching. So, again, relating to that, I'll read this one though. This is something I say. I do want to share though that the best coaches are the ones who are right down in the trenches with their people. You can absolutely be an amazing coach when you are at your goal weight. However, I know from experience that most people want relatable. Being on your journey yourself is the most relatable and inspiring thing you can do. All right, so those are some like coaching type hesitations that seem to be pretty common. So this is the last slide, the go for no overview. So this is kind of like to summarize everything we talked about. On the left side, this is something I shared in my stories before. I saw it like pop up one time and I was like, oh, I need to share that. There we go. So I shared that in my stories and I feel like this goes to kind of busting those hesitations or busting those excuses from people, right? Like it says healthy groceries are $100 and we say they're too expensive, but then you go on a dinner date for $100 and you're like, oh, that was reasonable, right? Like where you could have spent $100 for an entire week of groceries, but you went out on a dinner date for $100 for one night. A therapist is $130 and that's absurd to people, but going to Target, you could easily spend $130. So just kind of showing like, 60 minutes of exercise. Oh, I don't have time for that. But 60 minutes on Instagram, you're scrolling and you're like, oh my God, it's already been an hour, right? Like, so showing people those hesitations and how you can look at things in a positive way. So just some things to kind of summarize what I talked about today was keep asking people until they say yes. The one common question I get from my coaches is, when do you stop inviting somebody? And I would say never, unless they say, do not message me ever again. which has never happened to me. But if they say do not message me, then don't message them again. But I follow up every single month, sometimes several times a month, right? Like, you just have to keep asking. I've asked some people like maybe 8 or 9 times. That's 8 or 9 months, and then they say yes. Remember that you're offering them something incredible. Think about the journey that you've been on and the community that we have, the accountability that you get in the boot camps, and remember that you're offering them something incredible. That's going to help you with that confidence, right? Like, what we have is amazing, and we just want to share that. This is the research I was mentioning before. So 92% of salespeople give up without asking for the sale for a 5th time. Research shows that 60%, so almost more than half of all customers, say no 4 times before they finally say yes. Right? So more than half of the people you're talking to are going to say no 4 times. So 4 months in a row if you're inviting them once a month to your boot camp. 4 months. And on the 5th month is when they're going to finally say yes. Right? That's like mind-blowing. So don't ever stop asking. No just means not yet, and you should be getting a lot of no's. I would say most of my interactions and stuff is either a no or they just don't reply. And guess what? I keep inviting, right? I have so many where there's no words on their side of the screen and it's just my messages. But I keep inviting because one time they're going to say yes. One time they're going to want the information. So just think, like, when they say no, and most times people are so nice about it. They're like, oh, thanks for thinking of me, but no, thank you. So it just means not yet, and just keep following up with them. And I wouldn't ignore when they say no. Don't just like not respond to the message. I usually say like, oh, I totally get that. Is there a better time that works for you? Or I'll follow up with you next month. Or, you know, if they give an excuse like they're really busy with school, I'd be like, you know, I totally get that. I was really busy too. Just let me know if you ever have questions or if you just want information. Just always be like polite about it. If you're not hearing objections as a newer coach, so if you're newer and you're just starting to invite, if you're not hearing objections and people aren't giving you excuses or hesitations, then something is wrong. So you're either not inviting, so you're not getting any objections, or you're not inviting enough to be getting those and hearing all the different types of objections. Your goal should be to learn every single excuse in the book. And the only way to do that is to invite and hear the word no. The more you invite and have conversations, the more comfortable you're going to get with those hesitations, and you're going to know what to post publicly about because you're going to hear those things over and over and over again. So just think, like, every time somebody says no or gives you a hesitation, don't get discouraged by that. That's just a learning experience and another tally mark you can put next to I don't have time. So now you know that, okay, I really need to be talking. My followers seem to think that they don't have time, so I must not be sharing in my stories or on my feed enough that this doesn't take a lot of time. If they're saying how busy they are or they don't want to go to the gym or it costs too much, then I'm not sharing the value in this enough, so that you know then like where you can improve on what you're sharing. And there's strength in numbers. So obviously the more invites you send, the more yeses you're going to get. And again, those yeses come after 4 times of asking them, the majority of the time. Okay. So my question then is, how many no's are you guys going to get tomorrow? Your goal should be to get as many no's as you can. But we are running out of time, so it might shut off. But are there any questions before hopefully it kicks us off? You guys can unmute yourself or pop it in the chat, which I don't know where the chat is. Oh, here. So any questions that you guys have?
Okay, I have one question.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So one of my biggest objections seems to be cost. It all seems to be cost, which I think you addressed very well, and I'm going to use some of that. But it just seems to be like a reoccurring, like they all want to do it. Like one gal's like, well, when I get settled, she's getting ready to go through a divorce, so I get that. But I don't know. I guess, are there any other tips or tricks you have for handling a cost objection other than this?
Yeah, I would say, like, it was on one of the slides, I don't think I read it, but, something that some of my challengers actually do is they save money every week until they can get to the challenge pack price. So I say, like, put away $10 a week, and then you're gonna have the challenge pack in a couple months, like, the price for you're gonna have the money for it, and I just make it non-pressure, right? Like, I totally get that. Save up for a month or two, and I'll check back with you, and they're gonna appreciate that so much.